Welcome back to the Chatterbox with King Jacob, man. Yours truly, man. The Chatterbox where we really bring you, things about community development, things about the entertainment industry, news that we're going through in the world, and we just chop it up with you live, raw, and uncut, so the people can get the real. So tonight, man, we'll be celebrating the legacy of Dr. Frederick D. Reese. Civil rights leader. He catapulted in a time where black people couldn't speak. He embraced the fact that black people needed to vote and need to be heard, and he took a stance when a lot of people wouldn't. So today I have joining me, Alan Reese, MJ Reese, you know, his family members, and they're going to talk about their nonprofit organization and the foundation. So I'll go ahead and start with you, Alan, and then follow up by MJ.
What's going on, man? My name is Alan Reese, man. Like I said, I'm the CEO of the Frederick D Foundation. The foundation kind of we walk in the spirit of FD Reese, my grandfather, civil rights icon. And like I tell people, man, I break up his legacy in three words: his passion, his passion, his purpose, and his calling. He was a teacher over 50 years. He was a politician. Um, that was his purpose and his call. He was a man of God. So we do drives, tours with tots. We give out scholarships, HBCU scholarships, trade scholarships. Man, we're a young foundation, but as people continue to donate and as we continue to bring awareness to my grandfather's, people are intrigued and they want to continue to support the movement, man.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's great, man. That's great. I'm so glad to hear that, man. And brother MJ.
Yeah, I mean, like my brothers, I'm MJ Reese, COO of the Frederick D. Reese Foundation. Like my brother said, we care about the community. Walking in the footsteps of our grandfather, Reverend Dr. F.D. Reese. Like he said, back to school drives and things of that nature. And we're also trying to get our grandfather's name in his rightful place. To show that he made a stamp on the movement. He kind of, to be politically correct, a little bit overlooked. You see him in pictures and everything, but one of our missions is to get his name in the history books where it belongs.
Okay. So all right, so let's give people a background on Dr. Reese and how the legacy started and when it started. If you can brief us in on, you know, um, who your grandfather was and what he stood for and all the things that he accomplished.
Oh man, it'll take me a couple of hours, but I'm gonna sum it up. My
Okay.
grandfather, he was the chief orchestrator of the voting rights movement, man. He was the man who got Dr. King letter, signed a letter to get Dr. King to Selma because he was the president of the Dallas County Voters League. So many times we know about the SELC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and a lot of times we know about SNCC, the group John Lewis was the president of, but we never talk about the Dallas County Voters League. The Dallas County Voters League was the local organization who was leading the voting rights registration movement in Selma. And my grandfather, he's the one that got all that together. He was the leader of that. Also, because he was a teacher, he led the first World Teachers March, January 22nd, 1965, because he was the president of the Selma Teachers Association in Selma, Alabama. He led that. He went against his own community. The community did not want Dr. King in Selma. He went against his own community and said, because he was a man of God, a reverend over 50 years, a pastor over 50 years, he had foresight and insight from the Most High God. And he said, well, Dr. King being in Selma is what we need at this moment. And we look at that, man, that was the greatest move that the voting rights movement could ever have. And because my grandfather wouldn't say what he did, I can go on about the other things he did, but those were some of the two majors. But because he wasn't the type of person to say what he did, and he was about the local movement, he was about local government, emphasis on intimate relationship with the community. They kind of put him in the back street. You really don't know about him. but he was the most significant person in the movement, man. You know, that's real. That's just honest to God true.
Okay, okay, and see what I love about what you're talking about. You passionate, you gritty with it. You know what I mean? You stand up for the Reese bloodline,
That's right. That's right.
and that really just says a whole lot to me in what was instilled in you and your family jewels. See,
That's
because
right.
what people don't understand, man, you know, them genetics is a part of our jewels.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And so with you passionate about it and what he did, cause I was reading some stuff on him today. I Googled him and it's a whole lot of stuff, man. You know, Salma and everything else, man. So we gonna chop him about all that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So MJ, go ahead, man.
Yeah, and to piggyback on my brother, yeah, he was a chief orchestrator, man. A lot of times the people that's about, I ain't, and I would say this with boldness, he was behind the scenes and on the scenes.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the times people behind the scenes they get overlooked, but the significance about my grandfather, like when we do tours, man, I break it down like this. If you want to make the biggest statement, if you want to make a big statement, you will go to a place where it's more population. You would go to Miami, or Dr. King was from Atlanta. Um, you had John Lewis from born in Troy, Alabama, things of that nature, where it was more people. So I what I do is I try to intrigue people with the common knowledge or the common sense. Why do you think that they want to make? Why do you think if they want to make the biggest movement, they came to a place where it was only 25,000 people there in 1965? And see, when I say that, then people be like, you know what? Why did they go to Little Selma to make a big movement? And the answer to that question is because Dr. Frederick D. Reese already had things in place. So when Dr. King came to Selma, it was an easy transition for them to make the biggest movement of the civil rights movement, period. Dr. King came to Selma in January. They was marched across the bridge in March. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, they don't. I mean, it's kind of hard because we're only taught a certain amount of people in civil rights history when it comes to the voting rights movement. But if they sit back and just think, why would they come to a town where it was only 25,000 people, not Atlanta, where it was almost quadruple that,
Chicago or Detroit.
or Chicago or Detroit or Miami? They didn't go anywhere else. They went to Selma, Alabama, where it was only 25,000 people. The reason that because my grandfather, Reverend Dr. Frederick D. Reese, when the Dallas County Voters League was revised, it had less than 100 members. He under his leadership, it grew to over 2,000 members. So basically, he had 2,000 people ready to ride with him in the major decisions he was ready to make. So
Right.
if we sit back and think about it like that, and we look at it as today of the Instagram, he had 1 million followers. So if he got 1 million followers, then let's jump on his followers and whatever decisions he's making, let's ride with it. And so
Right.
that was the main issue with my granddad. I mean, we still live, bro. We want to keep talking about it.
Oh yeah. Well, bro, you summed it up a lot, man. You really did. But I guess I go in emphasis. I put a little emphasis on things that people do know. And when civil rights icon John Lewis passed last year, he lied in his state in Selma, Alabama at Brown's Chapel. Brown's Chapel Church is the mother church of the civil rights, voting rights movement. The reason that church is the mother church is because they're the only church that answered the call. See, in 1965, racism in Selma, Alabama had an injunction called congregate. That means more than 5 people, 5 black people together, they would get arrested. Well, when Dr. King told my grandfather he was coming, guess what happened? My grandfather called all the major churches, that's Brown's Chapel, First Baptist, and Tabernacle. Brown Chapel is the only church that called him back to say, yes, we are willing to break the injunction for Dr. King to come to Selma and speak in Selma, Alabama. See, FD Reese is all over the voting rights movement, just people don't know. But he got these grandboys that don't mind talking about it.
I mean, I know he was all over the voting rights. Because I heard a lot of different people who talking about people like your grandfather, people like your grandfather, people like Marcus Garvey,
That's
so
right.
I follow Dr. Eric Michael Dyson
Okay.
at
Okay.
Georgetown University. I follow him a
Yeah.
lot. And
Eric
so,
Dyson. Yes, sir.
yeah, so when it comes to historians and just people in general that study the history of people who was in that fight for the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Like your grandfather Rosa Parks, like Dr. King, like John Lewis. Like they was they was in a different realm in their life, and I want to call it more of a spiritual realm.
That's
You know,
right.
Mm-hmm.
it is it's sort of like Moses protecting the people. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Mhm.
and when you are a protector and but you also have the spirit of God that gives you a sense of urgency
Mm-hmm.
to really get your people mentally, emotionally, and spiritually ready for what's
Right.
coming next. If, if,
That's
Mm-hmm.
if you
right.
get what I'm saying.
You need all three.
Right.
Yes,
You need
sir.
all
Yes, sir.
three.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. So, upon your your grandfather legacy and him doing so much for his community, let's talk about his education. Where is he originally from, and where did he go to college at, and when he was in college, man, did was he already a force that was navigating when he was in school already, or was it after he graduated to when he started navigating and taking that stand?
Um, my grandfather was born and raised in Selma, Alabama.
Okay.
I got a good tip for you. The creator of Ebony magazine, her
Mm-hmm.
dad delivered my grandfather. He was a doctor in Selma, Alabama. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But my grandfather went to college to Alabama State. Alabama
Okay
State
then.
University in Montgomery. While he was there, he was one of the leaders to. He was a Sigma. He helped create 2 chapters at Alabama State. Um, and then when he graduated, he went to Wills Cox County where he met my grandmother. He was the president of the Teachers Association there, where he then really started really working because there where he implemented for black women to have maternity leave. He did it in Selma, Alabama too, but he did it there first. Black women couldn't have kids and sit out of work for a while. They had to go right back to work. But up under his leadership, he started with implementing maternity leave for black women in Wilcox County. And they saw what he was doing in Wilcox County. It was like, man, you need to come back home. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be a great assistant at home. So he came back home, man. He really went to work, man. When they revised the Dallas County Votes in 1956, up under Amelia Boynton and Sam Boynton leadership, that's when they revived it. And Mr. Sam Boynton, he passed, man, and that's when my granddaddy in 1961 became president um, of the Dallas County Votes League, man, and they took off. Man, they started doing better than the NAACP and all the other groups in Alabama. They really just took off. I think they really took off because of his education. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
you could see an educator work all over the movement because we have the missing artifacts, man. We got letters from Dr. King, Abernathy, everybody all over the world, man, at the house right now, and we're working on getting that collection in a archives. But we got the missing pieces, man. And I'm trying to tell you, when you see that his education and you start seeing how he used that to kind of put his stamp on the movement, man, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So Alabama State. Um. So with that being said, at Alabama State, man, when you guys go to Alabama State and the Reese family at Alabama State, what is that like for you, man? Um, just navigating through life, celebrating his legacy. You got your foundation started. So what is it like for you to go back to where he made a substantial footprint at?
Man, it's cool. I
Yeah.
let my brother talk a little bit because I talk all day,
Nah, it's very cool, man, and it's intriguing because we've been on this journey for a minute. We started the foundation in 2017, and and just just to be honest, it's been a journey. We'll find different things. And as far as Alabama State, when he passed, the president um, of Alabama State at that time came and spoke and gave a letter, So it's always it's a wild moment, to be honest, just to be honest, because a lot of people always ask us, well, how did you, what about this about your grandfather and this? And to be honest, we looked at him as granddad coming up. Now, my brother had a story of how we started this journey and how he opened the page and he saw they were studying history, and he saw a granddad's picture without a name on it when he was in grade school. But as far as us growing up, he was just granddad. But we didn't really, just to be honest, unveil his really stamped significance until we started this journey. Once we started this journey in 2017, when my brother had the conversation with granddad about taking over his legacy,
Yeah.
my brother called me and we started running with it. Then we really start seeing not only his significance, but like my brother said, his penmanship on the movement, um, um, his education on the movement, his how he was tactful in everything he did in the movement, man, and his education played a part in it. And so we're gonna work in the future with Alabama State to get some really stamped things done. But to answer your question, as we go through this, to kind of put our kind of soul into his footprints a little bit. It's an amazing adventure, man. Just to be honest.
And what's interesting to me, man, I'm from South Carolina, so I'm from the state where they had the first slave ship
Okay.
down in the Gullah Islands in Charleston, South Carolina. And
Mm-hmm.
so, South Carolina, the state holds so much history with our black people, and I'm pretty sure that your grandfather navigated all through the Carolinas as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
being with who he was and what he stood for. There was a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on with a lot of the southern states: South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Just to name those states, it
Mm-hmm.
it speaks volumes. So,
Yeah.
I can appreciate, because I tell people all the time, man, my granny, uh, it's funny. She told me, she was like, when we was coming up, and how we learned how to read is our mama read the Bible to us,
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
we had to sound out every word. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and we learn how to read through listening to songs of the gospel.
That's
You
right.
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Right.
so what's interesting to me, man, is like, here you have a lot of successful black men that wasn't educated as your grandfather, but I know, older black men who had six, seven, eighth grade education, but became
Mm-hmm.
millionaires.
That's
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I just say, just because, the sense of urgency with black people when it comes to learning something and mastering it, a lot of times it's, you can show us something one time and we can
That's
do it
it.
just as you showed us. You know what I
Right.
mean?
but look,
Right.
And so
look.
but with your grandfather giving them insight with his education
Uh-huh.
Right.
and helping them advance in the business world and helping them become more cultural, where they can provide jobs for their people, for their community, you know, like, I highly respect that.
Yeah.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the children of your grandfather, what did your parents and your uncles and your aunts and stuff tell you it was like seeing him navigate that when he was when they were coming up as children?
Well, to be honest, man, a lot of like my aunties really didn't know a lot of stuff he did, man. My granddad wasn't the type of person to speak about it. Now my dad, because since my granddad was one of the first city council members, black city council members, of Selma, which you could say helped that through the Voting Rights Act. Okay, so he became a city council member, right? And so my dad used to go to city council meetings with him. And so the thing about my granddad, man, he was about his people, man. When my dad would tell these stories, like when people would try to come and create jobs in Selma, the first question my granddad would ask was, "How many black people you gonna hire?" That's his first question. How many
Mm-hmm.
blacks? And they used to say, man, we get tired of that man talking about how many blacks you gonna hire, how many blacks you gonna hire. And like, for instance, another instance, my dad said, man, he swear when because the Klan used to come in the meetings booted, suited and booted, man, in the city council meetings. And so my granddad used to tell them, hey, y'all gonna take y'all hoods off in the meeting. You gonna show yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so my dad said, man, I used to swear when we used to leave the meetings, man, the car was gonna blow up. But some of the things they used to do, man, like when they changed Sylvian Street to Martin Luther King Street in Selma, Alabama, they got the sign and threw it in my grandfather's house. They threw a bomb on my grandfather's house. It just didn't go off. You know, and the FBI came to the house. You got to hear my dad tell this story, man. The FBI came to the house and said, and he said, you know, during that time, of course, kids could not be in the room with grown folks. And my dad,
Right.
look, man, is your daddy home? He was like, yeah. So my dad said he went to the other room and they showed my dad a letter, a list. He said my daddy letter was like 3 from the top. And he said the FBI said, Reverend, we were just coming by to tell you on the hit list. And my granddad told him, man, I don't care about no list. But we're gonna continue to do what we need to do to keep moving our people forward. Basically, you can take that list and shove it. I don't care nothing about that. Man, if you knew my granddad and my grandfather, he walked fearlessly, folks.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't
Mm-hmm.
walk fearlessly.
Right.
That was
He,
just
he,
my
he,
story.
he walked by faith and not by sight. Yeah.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right, man.
The
All
Yeah.
day,
definition of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
all day, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right, man. That's all right. And you know, man, it gives me great pleasure, man. I can I can really put this down, on my resume, man, that I've interviewed, two grandsons of the great, like Dr. Reese, so like a lot of people may not never know what it feel like to interview, a legendary civil rights activist that really put himself on the front line
Mm-hmm.
for people. So we ain't talking about military. We talking about the front line of Black humanity. You
That's
know what I
right.
Right.
mean?
That's
The
Right.
right.
the front line of the Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
The front line of a Black man that really seen some stuff in his day
Mm.
that that'll make you cry every day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I can say I'm really, really, really happy about that. So upon that, man, it just it got to be really, really it had to be really hard for him to become the first Black city councilman, and it's got to be really kind of the way y'all navigate with it to really honor his legacy, man. I know you guys really sit back and think, man, what incited Granddad to do this? Like, what gave him his get up and go? Like, what made him stand tall on a time where Black people was afraid to stand tall? What made him stand like a giant? And then, what was the thoughts of y'all grandmother, man? Like, here she's married to a man with no fear. Here she's married to a man that's relentless of what anybody say he should stop, don't do it. He on a hit list. Like, what was her thoughts from what your father may tell you, or from some of your older cousins may tell you? Like, what was her thoughts?
Man, she
Well, yeah.
just like him. When you
Yeah.
talk
She
up,
she mirrored that fearlessness, man.
Wow.
yeah,
Like she's still living. She 91 today. She'll tell you. Like she done a few interviews and she'll say, I just knew Frederick had a calling, God was calling him. And I just prayed to keep him safe. And I knew God was gonna keep him safe.
I
And
didn't
he'll
work.
go out there and do what he do.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, simple as that, bro.
Hey,
You're not
Wow.
gonna you're not gonna get you're not gonna get a advanced answer. You're gonna get a simplistic answer just like that.
like
I,
that.
God was gonna keep him protected. and God had called Frederick for something big, and I stayed home, took care of the kids, and they had faith and let him do it. She mirrored that fearlessness.
That's right. That's
Point
right.
blank.
Point blank.
Wow, man.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing, man. That's really amazing. So upon that, man, like your friends and stuff that you grew up with, man, and when they heard that you was opening up the foundation, man, like what were some of those conversations, like some of those really intellectual type conversations, those hard driven conversations of black humanity and black society and the black culture from back in the day, and how your grandfather navigated to really stay on top. So what are the conversations you had with your peers?
Oh man, my thing is that we want to be like our grandfather and not be bought. That's just one of the things. He was unbought, man. I think it's very important for us to stand for the culture and not sell out. So many times today, a lot of people sell out, man. And I talk about this when I talk to people, and I talk to young kids, and I talk to just different people. So many people today are worried about being celebrity active. And see, my
Uh-huh.
grandpa they were straight activists. They was about their community, one about the lights, cameras, action. The entertainers funded the movement. Everybody was on code, everybody knew their place. We just want to know our place. You know what I'm saying? We just want to be true, stand on what's right. You can never do the wrong thing by doing the right thing. You get what I'm saying? And so
Right. So speaking of entertainers, and speaking of Selma, I'm gonna call one. I'm gonna call an entertainer that I grew up listening to, and my dad, and my mom, my grandmom, all used to talk about her, and I know that your grandfather was in connection with her, cause as she counseled about 7 tour dates to walk down there and Selma when Dr. came. So I know he was in contact with the late great Miss Aretha Franklin.
okay,
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Cause as I'm watching, the movie with Jennifer Hudson play
Respect.
her Respect,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so and they shows clip of when she canceled those 7 tour dates to walk. And so
Right.
I'm pretty sure, that your grandfather had a chance to be with her. And I'm pretty sure she got some backing because it states in the movie that she was backing a lot, because a lot of
yeah,
people don't know. Originally, that's where she's from down there in Birmingham. That's where her grandparents and her grandfather and her father was originally from Birmingham,
that's right.
Mm.
but they moved to Detroit. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Migration.
So
Right.
right. So I know doing and I used to hear Richard Pryor talk about it, and in some of his stand
Well,
ups, some of his old stand ups. I used to hear a lot of different people talk about it, like Cindy Portier, like
Mhm.
James Earl Jones.
right.
I tell them talk about that march down there. You know what I mean? And so, um, are there still other older gentlemen that you guys talk to, or other older ladies that y'all talk to that was there during that time, and y'all get a little bit more insight from them as well?
Um, I,
It's
I Go ahead, bro.
it's a few, a lot. Just to be honest, a lot of them has passed away, but it's a
Right.
few of the people in Selma, because see, we got what a lot of people don't have. Just to be honest, man, a lot of people hear two or three names: your John Lewis, your Martin Luther King, your Ralph Abernathy. But to be honest, man, we can sit here and talk for hours and stories about things. Like, we just found out more things about 6 7 months ago that our grandfather was doing. So the beauty of what we have, the diamonds and the gems we have, is the local stories of Selma, Alabama.
It's Joanne Blaine. I just talked to her.
Just
Got the,
yeah,
yeah.
to let Joanne Bland, and we the Courageous Eight, and see people like that nationally people don't hear.
Mm-hmm.
But see, what we have is behind the scenes,
Right.
real truth of how it all came together. A
And how?
lot of people don't have it. A lot of people just think, oh, it's a bunch of black people that came together and marched across the bridge, bro.
Uh-uh.
When
And
that's not
big
the
brother,
case.
what we have is structure to show you how it works. Like I tell people all day when I do my tours, you might not know his name, but J.L. Chestnut, Attorney
Mm,
J.L. Chestnut, to me, is the greatest civil rights attorney outside of Thurgood Marshall because they understood how to, and I talk to his son all the time, how to change the letter of the law. See, today, our lawyers, it's just like, for instance, what goes on with George Floyd, Anthony Brown. What happens is what we do, we settle for settlements. We're not proactive. We are a reactive generation. And see, those cats back in the day were proactive. They knew, look, we want to start some mess, change the letter of the law so it can work for us. Now, what we do today, we wait till something happens, and then we glorify the settlement. But we
mm,
never change, we never put emphasis on changing the letter of the law. You
mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And so if we're not changing the letter of the law, like when I talked to Miss Joanne Bland, or I talked to Terry Chestnut, Jail Chestnut's son, the locals who were still here that was a part of the movement, when I talked to them, these are the stories. If we're
Mm-hmm.
not changing the letter of the law, we're not doing nothing.
Yeah,
Because
Mm.
they put it in
we're
black and
not
white.
accountable. Accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right. They,
okay, okay,
they,
okay. So, you said something about Miss Joanne, and you said something about it's what you said, the Furious Eight, or what did you say?
Correct.
courageous.
Yeah.
The Courageous Eight. I was like, so let's get into the conversation you had with Miss Joanne and and let's talk more about the Courageous Eight as well. Because that's history. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even though we ain't from the same state, we still from the South, so it's
That's right.
history to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
Well, with the Courageous Eight, with the board of directors of the Dallas County Voters League, and that's how I break it down to everybody when I do my tours and I go around to the schools and talk to everyone. Okay, if you think about the SCLC, you got Martin Luther King, the president, you got Abernathy, the vice president, and you have Ambassador Young as the treasurer. Well, when you think about SNCC, John Lewis was the president. Then I forgot, I think Mr. Freeman was the vice president, but so on, so on. So, but with Selma, you have the Dallas County Voters League. F.D. Reese was the president. Mr. Doyle was the vice president, a member of the Courageous Eight. And then you have Mr. Gittersley as the secretary. These are the board of directors of the Dallas County Voters League, just like we got the SCLC and the SNCC. So what they make it seem like when they tell the story of Selma, they make it seem like that Dr. King then came and gave structure, and that's not true. Structure was already there. The Dallas County Voters League was structure. Who
But
invited?
who is telling these stories though? That's the bulk of it. Like who is telling? So how can you really tell a story if people weren't there? Are they speculating on the story? Like how
Well,
if
okay,
the story is not being told by someone that was actually there or someone that really knows something
well,
about it. So it's being structurized, but it's missing jewels
it's
and
missing
missing
jewels.
gems out the story.
Yeah, because you go to the movie Selma. Remember this. If you ever watch it again, that movie is very inaccurate. If you watch Common goes to the car and says, Dr. King, this is the place. This is the place, like they want to invite it. So now in everybody's mind is like Dr. King them just came and set up shop and said it's the place and they got everything started, which is not true. It,
Mm.
it was the Dallas County Voters League who was already working. SNCC, John Lewis had been there since 1963. SNCC had been there since 1961. Dr. King came and spoke for the first time January the 2nd, 1965.
They had already been there 4 years.
They had already been there. They had already been working. But what my granddad recognized, and remember this in history, this is the turning point. What happened was the reason my grandfather invited Dr. King in the SCLC is because remember you talked about the word of God, how they learned how to read. Well, the mass meetings they was to what? Educate and teach the illiterate. The ones that only had a 5, 6, 7th grade education to teach them how to take the voting rights test. That's why they
Mhm.
had mass meetings. But what was happening is when the blacks went into the test, the whites in the structure had changed the test. So they kept failing the test. So my granddaddy said, look, we had to have another approach. And this is history, and it's not to go against nobody. But SNCC, John Lewis, and all of them did not want Dr. King in Selma. Now that's another show. I can break that down why they
Oh
did
man,
because
listen, man,
hey,
listen,
I can break this down to you, Doc.
listen, man. So even in those times, there was still heavy politics
That's right.
and
That's right.
and what needed to be said in some meetings wasn't said because it was kind of like I ain't gonna say boycott to say it, but it was like, well, this don't really be need to be said right here,
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
because if we say this, the money that we're taking in from elected officials or a prominent business person, we may not can get this money for the funding, and
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna hurt our women and children. Oh, I mean, I get it, I get it.
You get it.
You
You
know what
get
I
it.
mean, I get it, but see, the thing about that right there, when it's about history,
It's
Because
you
you
history.
know,
think
you gotta tell the truth about history
You got
because
hey,
think
true.
because
about it.
True.
Think about it. Like my brother always say when we do our tours. In the bus boycott, you think about the bus boycott as Rosa Parks and
uh
SCLC and Martin Luther King, right?
But
right,
Snick
SNCC had a part in that, but the SCLC overshadowed them. So I want you to think about this.
Civil Rights
Just,
Act
just
1964.
think about the Civil Rights Act. So think about it. If I'm in Selma in 1961, right? I'm working for voters education. I'm getting these people down here to take the test. Now Dr. FD Reese gonna tell me, now we've been here 3.5, 4 years. So now Dr. FD Reese gonna tell me Martin Luther King gonna come here too. He
That's
done
right,
already took over the bus boycott.
brother.
So now you finna have him come to Selma and take over the voting rights, and we've been here 3 years. But my granddaddy understood this is what needs to happen.
Happened.
So when my brother said they didn't want Dr. King there, he is 100% correct. They don't tell you this. That's why when my granddaddy got up in Brown Chapel and said, "Doctor, we are gonna invite Dr. King," they booed him.
They booed him. They booed him. He sat there on the middle pool, the middle pole.
but this is my thing. Okay, understands it was already started. It was moving, and the movement was moving quickly and swiftly, right? So, but I can understand your grandfather's position.
Correct.
He said we're gonna invite Dr. King because this needs a different type of attention that people don't
Thank,
know from other states.
Correct.
thank
You
you.
know what I mean?
Correct.
So your before people was even thinking strategically, your grandfather was on a strategic, like it sounds like everything he thought about he already had planned out.
He
He didn't
already
do
played.
nothing out would put any thought into it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I can see his point, but I can hear somebody booing him and saying
Yeah.
Yeah, but
like
Yeah.
how can you do this, and we already got this
Right.
going, but
but
but but we got it going from a local level. This needs national attention.
exactly.
Exactly.
And see, this
Yeah.
this how smooth he was. And when you see Barack Obama move, that's how FD moved. They
Mhm.
said that he sat in the middle seat on the podium, and let every minister and every leader in Selma get on him and talk about him. When they was done, they said he stood up. We got people who was there who telling us this story. We got it on film for the documentary. When he stood up, he went to the podium and said, "Dr. King will be here in Selma, Alabama. Now let's stand and sing. We shall overcome." And that was it.
That was it.
He didn't say nothing to them about them. He didn't explain to them why they were wrong, this and that. He didn't even entertain it because he already knew this needed to happen. So,
Hmm.
based, I'm not going to entertain and try to negotiate with you on this move.
Right.
Well, some things don't need to be entertained or explained,
That's
Right.
right.
especially when you know the after effects that it's going to have with moving the people forward.
Mhm.
I mean, as a young folks said now, say less.
Say
Yeah.
You know what I
less.
Say
mean?
less.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
less. So,
Yeah.
so, so, so with that being said, the movement went that way. So, okay, for as far as your grandfather teaching other people in the community, you
Oh man.
know,
Oh man.
because a lot of women and children needed to be taught
Mhm.
because we can say that the men did a lot of backbreaking work. So by the time they got home, they wanted to eat, take a shower, go to bed, get ready for the next day. But so those classes, those community functions that your grandfather had, can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Oh man, the countless of generations that he touched, man.
It's unbelievable.
It's he lived 5 lives in one, to be honest. He touched generations. For instance, one of his people he impacted the most, she's a black woman. She just became a judge in Selma.
First black
Um, First
female
black
judge.
fire chief of police, first black firefighter, first the list goes on. He
Yeah.
helped implement why they put Mr. and Mrs. the prefix into the phone books. At first, black people in Selma, Alabama, if your name was in the phone book, you didn't have a Mr. and Mrs. in front of it. He implemented that.
Wow.
He integrated the doctor's office. At the doctor's office, the Caucasian women, they would get called by their Mrs. last name, right? But the black women will be called by their first name. He implemented that with a nurse who her son became the first black mayor of Selma, Alabama. Who he was a campaign manager of the first black mayor of Selma, Alabama. The list goes on.
Walmart. You was talking about
He
Walmart.
yeah, Walmart. He led the picketing and the protests of Walmart because they weren't hiring black managers. If you weren't a cashier, you weren't getting hired as black. So he led the picketed to protest on July 4th weekend. And
Wow.
the president of Walmart flew
Owner.
down from Arkansas
Right.
to Selma to talk to him. So then that clause is in the applications today across the nation. That's why blacks are hired now today as managers in Walmart, and that started in Selma, Alabama, led by Dr. F.D. Reese. Now that was after the
Wow.
voting rights movement.
We can go on.
We can go
Wow.
we can
Wow.
go on and on.
Hey man, hey man, hey man. All I can tell you is my God. My
Right,
God, man.
right,
My God. And
right.
and so with that being said, man, let's talk about this foundation. What's the name of it? What it stands for? Talk about the programs y'all have for the youth, and talk about the scholarship fund.
It's called the Frederick D. Reese Foundation. We started in 2017. We've done back to school drives. We've done toys for tots. We've done essay contests. Um, um, we've done MDA walks. My grandfather had two sons that died of muscular dystrophy. The matter of fact, the one that affects you the most, the Duchenne type of muscular dystrophy. He had one son die at 16, one died at 19. Um, so we partnered with the
So,
MDA.
so I didn't mean to cut you off. So
Go
what
ahead.
what actually is that when it comes to the muscles? What type of disease is that?
Well, what happens is you're born, and when you hit about, if you have well, the women are the carriers. So my grandmother is the carrier of it. Um, so when you hit about 4 or 5, you start to get weak or you start falling. As you're walking, you may fall, your muscles get weak. So normally when you hit 14, 15, 16, your muscles are pretty much
It's cake.
yeah, it's ineffective. So you can't walk, you can't do nothing for yourself. So you have to get care around the clock. So our Uncle Allen died at 16, and our Uncle Frederick died at 19.
And our
And
dad.
our dad is the only one that didn't have it. He's the only boy that didn't have it. And he had 3 children. And so here we are. So we partnered up because that was dear to my grandmother. If you read the book, we have a book, Selma Self-Sacrifice, which is self-published by us, written by my grandfather and Mrs. Kathy Walters. Great book, if I say so myself. It entails all of that and the process and everything that they went through with muscular dystrophy and my grandfather's life. It is an amazing story. But with the MDA Muscular Dystrophy Association, we've done 2 MDA walks. We want to get back in it, because of COVID and everything. We had to kind of dial down a little bit.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
now that everything's lifting, we're gonna talk about getting back in it. But yeah, we doing that. We want to do more things. Like I said, now that it's kind of lifting, it's kind of easing up a little bit. We can go and get back in it and go full force with it.
Okay, okay. So with the foundation, y'all do the school drives, the tots, and y'all have the essay contest. And
Mhm.
let's let's talk more about, as far as the scholarship fund and what does the youth, what do you guys require from the youth to actually to be a scholarship winner?
Go ahead, bro.
I think on the trade is a 2.5 GPA or higher.
Uh-huh. It
And
is.
on the HBCU is a 3.5
Correct.
or higher.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all got two different scholarship funds. You have an HBCU and you have like a trade school fund.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yes.
and as people donate, that's how we give the scholarships
Scholar.
out. They can
Mm-hmm.
donate to fdreesefoundation.org. That's the foundation website. You can see more information about that on there. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all right, man. And man, so let's talk about some of the kids that won scholarships. Were they all in Selma, or do you do it for surrounding counties as well, or how many essays do you take from different places?
As of right now, it was the ones who got it was from Selma, but
Mm-hmm.
it's wide open, man.
Mm-hmm.
Website and get in touch with us, man. It's wide open. Like I say, I guess since we such a young foundation, it's a lot of information is not out there. But as we grow, I think more people try to be involved in that,
Mm-hmm.
and we can kind of make those scholarships bigger. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
that's
right.
what it was, man. He was about education, music. He was about music too. So we try to walk in those areas and still implement things that we like too. You know what I'm saying? That,
Mm-hmm.
like it's
So
very
you, so your grandfather was a musician as well.
well. We used to do something called the Messiah every year. He
It
was
handles Messiah.
Handel's Messiah, man. It's kind of like opera, gospel
Uh huh.
opera, and he used to direct the choir every year, 2 days before Christmas, man. And it's our family. I'm a musician, minister. My brother's a singer. Our whole family is very
Oh,
musical.
really?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
You a singer, huh?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me find out. Let me find out, man. So you have stuff available on the digital platforms as well.
I do. Well, you can go on YouTube at MJ Reese History. I did an EP centered around my grandfather, which we are talking to Miss Sarita Moore with Mac. Actually, we're meeting next month to make it a play, kind of like a musical play with
Yeah,
his
like
life.
like a stage
Uh-huh.
play.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you guys gonna be doing a casting call for that as well?
I think we are. I'm gonna talk to Miss Moore. She's brilliant. So I'm gonna tell her my vision. Like I say, I'm pre. You the first one to really hear this publicly, but we gonna meet with her and come up with the vision and everything, and we gonna start rolling. I think she said we're gonna do the start production this fall, and we shooting for next February for the play to be presented.
That's gonna be in Selma.
It's gonna be in Atlanta.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me find out. Oh, okay. Now we talking. Now we talking. Now we talking. You know what I mean? Now we talking. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, so you're a singer
Yeah.
and you're a musician. So what you play? I'm a guess. Are you a bass guitar player?
No, sir. I'm keys all day.
Keys.
Oh, you play keys. Okay, but
Yep.
you do look like the type that'll play that bass though, for real, for real. Yeah. Man, cause bro, listen, man. You know, to play that bass guitar, man, you gotta be something serious, boy.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Ain't to play them keys because you can hit them. You can, man. If you got a person that can play them keys and he's showing up play them keys in church,
Yeah.
Well,
and the
that's what
whole church, be around there running for real,
Right.
for
that's
real.
right. Got keys, organ, the V3,
Mm-hmm.
all that, man. So
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you a singer too?
well, not really. Not like
Yeah,
my
you is.
brother and
Yeah,
my mama.
listen, bro.
I
Listen,
can
man.
hold a note.
I done grew up in that church. I done been in this music business since about 1997. Most people who can play them keys, man, they can sing. That's
Well,
fact.
now, well, he can
Now,
sing it though. When he come
now,
around, I shut up and just play.
right now,
Yeah,
a lot of keyboard players don't like to sing,
yeah,
but they can. You know what I
yeah.
Right.
mean?
That's
Right.
Yeah.
that's
So
true.
so that's what's up. That's what's up, man.
That's true.
So um, back to I think, man, that what y'all are doing is so remarkable, man. It's so great, man. And I just want to ask you, man, have you guys ever got in contact with any of the Black historian activists, grandchildren or children, like Dr. King, like Frederick Douglass, like Jesse Jackson kids,
Hmm.
like people like that.
No, not really, man. Um, King. I'm with some historians like Maurice Hopkins.
Hmm.
Right.
Mike, we real good friends. Matter of fact, my grandfather was his principal. He's from Selma, Alabama. Um,
Okay.
and so, but not really the families. And I think, and me personally, it's just my personal feelings. I feel like we as the offspring should be getting together to standing up for what our parents and grandparents did, man. I
Uh
really
Hmm.
huh.
I feel like it would be a disgrace, and this is just my honest opinion. It would be a disgrace for us to leave this world in the same state that it's in now.
Hmm.
And we
Man,
just back.
man, you better, man, hey, man, you better say that. You better say that for the back of the church.
Yeah,
Somebody sitting on the back. You better tell them in the
I
back.
believe,
For
I
real,
believe
for real.
that it would really be a disgrace for the Reese family, the King family, the Lewis family, the X family, Malcolm X, the all the families to sit back and allow the things that are going on to continue to happen, and we're
Man,
not
I
doing
would,
about it.
I would love to see you and your brother if if y'all could sit down and have a conversation with Jim Brown. For real, for real.
Okay,
Hmm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I think that'll be somebody that probably, more than likely, man, when Jim Brown and Jabbar and Dr. J was following the movement and stuff, I'm pretty sure that your grandfather probably met them in
oh
his
yeah,
past.
most definitely,
Yeah,
man.
most
You know
definitely.
what I mean? Yeah, because of what people don't know about a lot of black athletes, like I said, like Jabbar, Jim Brown, Dr. J, Earl Campbell, Earl Monroe, you know, Willis Reed, all of them was a part of that movement.
They
That's
Hmm.
was.
why that's why the ABA and the NBA gave them so much hell.
Hmm.
Right.
You know, yeah,
That's right.
you know, so they was part of that movement, man. So y'all definitely can touch a lot of different people, man. That that
Hmm.
that really gonna appreciate what y'all are doing and
Right.
continue to let. So, man, what's y'all dead thoughts in what all y'all are doing? What type of conversations y'all have?
Between us,
Yes.
all types, man.
Oh man, we talk. This is my favorite one, man. You gonna put some respect on FD Reed's name.
Yeah,
Hey, that's just me.
yeah.
Right. Right.
All the time, man. I mean, um, it's a journey, man. But I wouldn't have it no other way. Just to be
Mhm.
honest.
Right. Because for your father to witness it and really live through it, stand on top of it,
Right,
and now his kids is navigating with the
right,
foundation and standing on top of it again, like it's three different generations, man.
That's
right.
right.
And
And
just,
then
just
you know what? It's important too, man. I talk about, and when you said Charleston, South Carolina, see with my see, and my brother mentioned this, man. I was the fifth grader who opened the book and saw a picture of my grandfather, and without a name in my class said I was alive. And of course, I could tell the story how my granddaddy came and they went bananas and stuff. But man, when we think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, Charleston, South Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Rosewood, Florida. It's so much history in the black culture that we don't know.
hmm
It's so many
Yeah.
unsung things that if we just reach back and learn, looking at Atlanta with Lake Lanier with
look
that
at Lake
lake.
Lanier, right?
I'm saying it's so much rich history that has to be uncovered that we can reach back. And I tell young people this: my grandfather was fatherless. He did not know his father. In the book, how he explained it was the casket was going down the street, and his auntie said that that's your father in that casket. My grandfather was born in dysfunction. So many times
Mm.
in our community, we were born in dysfunction, but how we start does not mean how we end. Look how
You better
he
say
ended.
that. Better say
Look
that.
how he ended. And when I talk to young people, I like to share that story, not about Dr. King, not about what he did. I like because they see the pictures of him. But the first thing I say, look, he was born in dysfunction and did not know his father. Now, how would your story end? Now, use FD Reese because I say, look, with Martin Luther King, that's the American family, mother, father. You see structure. With my grandfather, you didn't have structure. But don't let your dysfunction and let you use it as an excuse not to be great and not to
You're right.
leave an impact and leave a name and leave something and leave your world better than what it was when you came. And
Right.
that's what we talk about, man.
We gotta think about, man. Like what people don't know, man. People talk about Malcolm all the time and how he was before, people like Dr. King and your grandfather and John Lewis, really gave him some insight on about the hatred he had in his heart for the white man. But what we gotta realize, the gangster, the pimp, you know, Cincinnati Red, you know what I
Red.
mean?
That's right.
Red, you know what I mean? But we gotta think like where you started is not how you finish.
That's
Correct.
right, bro.
Because Malcolm inspired people, your grandfather inspired people, Dr.
Right.
King inspired people, and what people don't know, Dr. King and I think it's Dr. King and Malcolm X father got killed in the same way. They got thrown on the train track by the white man. The train ran him over and killed him.
And
You
look
know
how
what I
his
mean?
brother died.
Right,
His
right,
brother died in the church. Got killed.
right,
But this is
right.
another turning point that they don't tell you in history too. When Malcolm came to Selma, Malcolm X came to Selma in February the 3rd or 5th in 1965.
That's right.
My grandfather and Martin Luther King was locked up. Malcolm X was going to Tuskegee to talk to some students. He stopped in Selma and taught at Brown Chapel. And he said, the reason I came to Selma to tell my brother that I got his back if he need me. See, they don't teach us that. And I put it on my Facebook post one day, is that draw me a picture of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and show me what it looked like, because both mindsets is needed to be successful. Both mindsets.
Yeah, man. And see, I tell people all the time, man. People, my homeboy say, man, you always listen to some Farrakhan.
Hey, you can
Bro,
learn something.
We can
I said,
learn.
boy, look here, man.
Yes, sir.
Listen, man, listen. Man, I'm talking about that realness, that raw, man. Like,
Yeah.
no holds bar. And see, and I can appreciate what you guys doing with young people because there's no hard bar. You teaching them young. You know what I mean? You share something with them that they probably is probably won't be shared at home.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of times, black historians that navigated for the community, who's still on top of the community, I feel like they are forgotten about. You know what I mean? Like Marcus Garvey said one time. He said, "You can beat me to death, but you can't beat my mind.
You can't beat
Cause
my mind.
my mind is a creation of God. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? You know what I mean? So
Right.
I can appreciate what y'all doing, man. So, but man, before we get ready to get out of here, man, I want y'all to tell everybody where they can find you guys at, both of you, and just get the website out one more time, man. And if anybody want to book you, how do they go through about doing that as well?
Well, how you can find me on Instagram? You can find me at Alan M. Reese. That's ALANMREESE. You can find me on Facebook as Alan Reese. You can go to fdreesefoundation.org and book me. You can go to fdreese.com and book me. You can go to History on the Para and grab you some para, historyonthepara.com. You can get the book Selma Self-Sacrifice at Amazon.com and just type in Selma Self-Sacrifice. And I think my brother he'll tell you something that if I miss something.
Yeah, you pretty much hit it out. You can find me, Marvin Reese Jr. on Instagram, Marvin Reese Jr. on Facebook. Like you said, fdreesefoundation.org for the foundation. You can go to what else? Oh, historyonthepara.com. I actually got in the jacket right now. This is my grandfather's face and his signature on the little jacket. You can go to historyonthepara.com and get
So y'all got an online clothing store too?
online clothing store. Yeah.
Okay, then.
That's historyonthepara.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're working on some NFTs too.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
Hey
that
man, you need to put that music in them NFTs. Gonna be
Yeah,
worth a lot of money in the next 3-4 years.
I'm working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
so
Yeah, and
uh,
then your writings as well, Alan. You and his writings, cause I know y'all working on a couple books. You just ain't saying them, but I know it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So I already know what it is. Cause
yeah,
nobody can acquire that much knowledge and not write about it and share it with the
right,
masses.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? Yeah. So man, but I just want to thank y'all for coming on. I want to say, shout out to Miss Thomas, the Tyra Thomas
Yes,
Agency.
yeah,
I want to say
yeah.
shout out to Sacramento, California Media Strategist, exquisite PR firm, Miss Ashley Marie. And man, this is the Chatterbox with King Jacob. And you're not locked in with Alan Reese, MJ Reese, and we have celebrated the legacy of their grandfather, Dr. Frederick D. Reese. And I'll definitely be in touch. Y'all guys have a good night. Be
All
safe,
right,
be
you
blessed,
too.
but
Appreciate
most of all, stay away from COVID.
it. There you
that's right.
go.
All right.
All right. Peace,
All
fellas.
All
right.
right.
All right.